Talking to us there. My name is Kathy Schwartzoff, and I work for Helping Services for Youth and Families. I have been at the agency for 28 years. I have been the mentoring coordinator there for only 23 and have been a certified prevention specialist in substance abuse prevention for 24. And so tonight we are here with some very special people who have been working very hard on this presentation. 5 nursing students have been researching everything for tonight and getting all the PowerPoint together and all those kinds of things. And quickly, before I have them come up, how is the sound online? Good, everyone? Okay, very good. We're using a new system tonight. This little mechanism here looks kind of like an owl, and so when I'm talking, it looks at me. And if you all say something, it's going to come over and look at you. And that way, the 30 plus people that are online have a real sense that they're here with us. And so I want to have the nursing students who are working on their clinical for public health come up and tell their names and whatever else they'd like to share tonight.
Hello everyone, my name is Mari Colette and I'm happy you're all here.
And I'm Emily Rankin, and I'm also happy you guys are here and hope you enjoy it.
I'm Claire Sullivan.
Oh, I'm Kim Peck.
I'm Sarah Retz.
And Sarah and Kim are over there making sure that everybody gets admitted that's coming online and making sure that they get all of the information that they need and checking the chat. Because throughout the evening, we do all want you to ask questions. If you're here in person or if you're online, you can put that in the chat or unmute yourself. And I'm thinking we may hear it just like we hear the recording person talking when that happens. So yeah, we are very excited about y'all being here. What we are going to be learning about tonight is a definition of what binge drinking is. We're also going to look at trends related to binge drinking, the risk factors and health outcomes, and then also identify some roles that you could do to be safe when you are drinking. So those are the things we're going to be looking at. A few housekeeping things before I forget. In your packet, people that are here, there is a copy of the PowerPoint. You're welcome to take some notes if you'd like to. For those of you who are online, we will send you the PowerPoint. And as you heard, we're recording tonight. We will also send you the recording if you'd like to have that. And we'll also send the PowerPoint, because I know sometimes people like that to check the links and check out further research that was done. So, and we do need your information, so if you're online and you just popped in, and we don't have any of your identifying information, we want to make sure that you put your email in the chat. And hopefully, yeah, it looks like everybody that signed in here put their email, so we'll make sure you get information. So, some of you may be thinking, gosh, you know, there's this Helping Services for Northeast Iowa that's based, or I'm sorry, it used to be called for Northeast Iowa, it's now called for Youth and Families. We're based here in Decorah. We do a youth mentoring program. Why are we talking about substance abuse prevention kinds of issues? And currently, I have a grant, or our agency has a grant with the Iowa Department of Public Health that they have said to us, in order for us to give you money to help kids, you have to tell them the messages related to what are the risks of using any kind of substance. And so that's what we're charged with doing, but also making wonderful relationships and having kids have a role model that they can spend time with. The other part of it, it's not just about money, it's also about what we hope that the kids will do well in. And we have 8 goals at Youth Mentoring and Helping Services. They're related to self-esteem, a good attitude towards school, making good decisions related to alcohol, tobacco, other drugs, problem gambling, and also having new opportunities to do new experiences and to use their social skills, and then two, to be hopeful about their future. I don't know if anybody was counting, but I think I got it. So those are the 8 goals that we have for youth mentoring. And to tell you a little bit about, just a little smidgen of things about youth mentoring. We serve youth between the ages of 6 and 16. They spend a minimum of 4 hours a month together. We currently have, I believe it's 3 Luther students who are mentors. At one point, we've had a dozen, and when we did that, we had little snack treats once a month and got together and talked, and that was really nice. And I know some folks that are online aren't affiliated with Luther, and you may live in another area. There's probably a mentoring program in your area that we connect you with too. Mentoring can be very, very rewarding. It also is a great resume builder, and it does not matter what your major is, because if you are a good friend, there's no degree in that, but being a good mentor is being a good friend. And it's really simple. We have monthly events that we do activities. We're going to the Sound of Music in December. In January, we're going to have a potluck, which doesn't sound very exciting, but it's a cold night like this. I like to eat good food and that kind of thing. In February, we're going to do an escape room. So we've got fun things planned. And that's a great way to get those 4 hours done quickly. And we can give you lots of ideas. If that's something that you're interested in, we'd love to talk to you more about it. So that's a little bit about youth mentoring. We're going to plunge right in here into what is binge drinking. And some of you may think, well, I know it's got to do with you've been drinking a lot. But specifically and simply, it's drinking too much in a short period of time. And there also is that idea of your blood alcohol content when it's at 0.08, that is considered a binge drinking level. And one thing to remember when you're at that level is that you may think that you're fully capable of driving, that you're fully capable of making good decisions, and you're fully capable of walking in a safe manner from here to there. And it may not be the case, depending on your body. And so you really need to be aware of that. And of course, when it gets higher than 0.08, the euphoria is even more pronounced at that point. There's slurred speech, there's coordination issues, there's issues related to good decision making, and can lead to memory loss and several other things that can affect your life. So that's the basics of the definition of binge drinking. And we talked about that there's a certain amount, and research has shown that women, the definition for binge drinking is 4 or more drinks within a 2-hour period. And for men, it's 5 drinks within a 2-hour period. And you do need to think about your body as well. So if you are a small stature man, you might say 4 hours or 4 drinks in a 2-hour period is probably correct for me. If you're a very large woman, the 5 drinks in a 2-hour period may be the correct measurement for you. It's not just because of your gender. It's more about how that alcohol gets absorbed in your body. So from time to time tonight, you're not going to hear me talking, and the wonderful nursing students are going to help out with some things, so they're going to start out right now.
Sarah, can you let us know if they can see us online?
Yeah. We're like here.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So this is gonna be it's called like Know Your Drink. So we're gonna see if you guys can kind of tell the amount of alcohol that would be considered like a standard drink so that you know the 4 and the 5 for women and men. And so just a disclaimer, this is not alcohol. We're using cranberry juice and we're gonna, like these are not full of the actual thing. But we just kind of took the 4 like most common drinks, so like wine, liquor, seltzers, and then beer. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask like one person from the audience, if you could tell us, we're gonna pour the drinks into this cup, and then you're supposed to
And
tell
they're
us when to
saying
stop.
online they can't see, so make sure that
Yeah,
you hold
we'll lift
it.
them
We know they can't see the table. We'll hold everything up.
But yeah, so for the first one, we're gonna do this wine, and then if someone would want to be a brave volunteer to tell us how much wine would be considered a standard drink. So let's have like someone from here, if anybody wants to. Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna pour the cranberry juice and you tell me when to stop when you think is one standard drink of wine. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
these are the ounces right here. We've got a 2-cup measure, so
4, 8,
it's 16 ounces total. Got it.
You're at, there.
Okay, what are we at? So that's at like 4 ounces, so that's pretty close. So standard drink of wine
Is actually 5 ounces.
5 ounces.
So just going up a little bit there.
I'm gonna pour it in a good try though.
Yes, very close.
Do you want to hold up the wine glass?
Yeah. So this is what about 5 ounces of wine looks like in a wine glass.
Yep, so then, and this is all just dealing with the like amount of alcohol content actually in these, so they're not all gonna be the same. So now we're gonna move on to the liquor. This is just a standard shot glass. And we're gonna do it with the cranberry juice so that you can visualize it better. I should just keep drinking from that, as I don't know if it's gonna be very.
Do we have any volunteers from online to unmute and tell us when to stop? Any takers?
Because we can always do it in person too.
Okay, we'll choose someone in person. They can't say no. Do you want to tell us when to stop?
Okay, so this is for like any type of liquor. Okay, so we don't have a measuring thing for this, but it's 1.5 ounces. And yeah, it's roughly like at the top of this lettering, so you were pretty much right. So audience members, if you can kind of see, it's almost to the top of the shot glass, but under a little bit, so.
So that's about 1.5 ounces.
Okay, and so now we're gonna do the seltzer, and we're not gonna pour it in here, but if someone wants to try to tell us how much cranberry juice would be for the seltzer, we're gonna do the same thing.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I'll do it.
All right.
Correct, so then I should be disqualified.
8 ounces?
Oh, yeah,
We'll
okay.
find out. We'll see.
Yeah, so that's a good
Yeah,
guess
that's a
here.
good guess.
come
We'll
back to
find
it.
out.
Got it.
Okay,
So what are we
so
at?
we are at,
That is at about 8 ounces, a little under.
so the actual amount that would be for a seltzer is 12 ounces because it doesn't have as much actual alcohol within it. So we're gonna pour up to 12 so that you can visualize.
Can't see some of this stuff.
Oh, I can't see it either.
I think that's 12.
Oh yeah, there it is. So this is the same amount that would be in this. So a 12 ounce thing, just so you can kind of visualize.
Hold the wine glass up next to that.
Right, in comparison.
Oh, there you go.
Cheers.
Okay, and then the same thing for the beer, which we're gonna just pour this.
Wait, for them. Okay, so we have one left. We have our beer can here. This is a standard sized beer can. Do we have any volunteers? Carolyn, would you like to go? Okay, tell us when to stop.
Okay, so we are at just on, well, eight.
Just
Eight
about
again.
8 again.
And so the standard for this beer, but this is Busch Light and it is 4% alcohol, so that'd also be 12 ounces. And most beers would be about 12 ounces too.
What about craft beers?
Yeah, so we were gonna get to that. So the craft beers, and especially for like a community like this where there's a lot of breweries and stuff, some alcohol contents of the beer are gonna be much bigger, probably closer to 10 sometimes. And so it's really important to make sure you're looking at the alcohol levels and then gauging it off of that. So like I said, this is 4, and then some other ones could be more. And so we're actually going to talk about it on the next slide as well, the specific alcohol contents in these, but some of those craft beers might be a little bit more. So
Right, so like even though our seltzer can and our beer can are like different shapes, they actually fit or are the same amount of volume for a standard drink. But like Emily said, that differs when you're talking about craft beers. So it's always important to read your label.
yes. So that's it. So now we'll talk about these in a little bit more depth, but
Yeah.
I'm very much a visual person, so I like seeing stuff like that because it helps me to go, oh yeah. And one thing to just kind of remember too is if you are drinking a mixed drink, not all mixed drinks are the exact 1.2 ounces, and there can be times too when you go, wow, this is a really strong drink. I need to pace myself and slow down here a little bit. So looking at this slide, it shows you what was kind of demonstrated in there, that a 5-ounce portion of wine has that 12% alcohol content. The seltzers and the beer have roughly the same alcohol content. One 12-ounce amount is considered a standard drink, and then any kind of liquor, 1.5 ounces. So, one of the things that we talked about in preparation for this too, especially related to those malt type of brewery type of places, is many times the server can help you. They know what the alcohol content is because they want to make sure that you're safe. And sometimes it's right on what they've labeled, if it's a flight or something like that, or when you order, it's on there, it says that. So it's there to help you so that you're safe because they want you to come back as a customer. So how are we doing? Are there any things on the chat that we need to be aware of or anything? No. Okay, super. So we are going to look at some gender differences related to the counties of Howard, Alameda, Winneshiek, and Delaware. And you'll see that frequently that those are the 4 counties that we're really looking at because those are the 4 counties that youth mentoring covers. So you can see from this slide that men are more likely to binge drink, twice as likely, pretty much, in each of these counties to binge drink than females are. And that isn't just indicative of Northeast Iowa. That's quite common in the entire nation, that men are twice as likely to binge drink. So another area that we're going to look at is actually a very local type of study that was done in 2019 and 2020. And it was done by Helping Services. They asked 434 people in Alameda, Clayton, Fayette, Howard, and Winneshiek counties between the ages of 18 and 65 plus about things related to drugs, marijuana, alcohol, meth, a myriad of things, opioids as well. The questions that were about binge drinking, the first one shares, the question is, in the past 30 days, on how many days did you consume 5 or more drinks of alcohol within a couple hours? And the results show that around 72% of folks didn't use at all in the past 30 days, didn't consume that amount. Doesn't mean that they didn't consume alcohol. There were certainly other folks with varied use, and the one that troubles me the most is that one on the bottom, that 1.4% said of those 30 days, 24 days they had consumed that much. That's a lot. And those are people that may be in our classroom, they may be in our workplace, they may be serving us, they may be making our food, they may be driving the truck that's going by us. So that can be a concern. Another question that was related in this data asked how wrong would most adults in your neighborhood feel if they knew that, or that if you became overly intoxicated. How wrong would they think that was? And the data showed that almost 80% of people found it either very wrong, wrong, or a little wrong. And what this says is that 20% of people have absolutely no concern that people are really doing that quite often. Other people do find it a concern. And it just tells us what the community norms are here in Northeast Iowa. And so it just gives us some food for thought. And then we're going to look at some risk factors for binge drinking. And one of the things that is very prominent is smoking is the strongest predictor of binge drinking. It doesn't mean that everybody that smokes will binge drink. It means those who binge drink have probably smoked. So that's what that means. And then two, a fact that I think is very interesting shares that 1 in 6 US adults binge drink 4 times a month nationally, consuming 7 drinks per binge. That's 1 in 6. Okay. And another factor related to binge drinking is that age, where those who are 18 to 34 are the group of people in that age group are the ones that are most likely to binge drink. And then those 65 plus are on the other side of it, that they don't as often. And we saw earlier that men are twice as likely as women to binge drink. And then another perhaps surprising factor is that if someone has a higher income level or a higher education level, they're more likely to binge drink. And it doesn't say this particular information on the chart, but the research that the nursing students found said that people with lower incomes and lower education levels consume more drinks total per year. So those lower income, lower education people are drinking more, but not often at that binge drinking level. And then we want to look at different racial groups and how those trends look like. And Hispanics are less likely to drink at all than non-Hispanic whites. But those who choose to drink consume much higher volumes than non-Hispanic whites. And you can see here the group that is the highest prevalence at almost 12% is non-Hispanic whites, with Asians being on the far other end, not very often binge drinking. So interesting. And speaking of interesting, again, those students are going to help us every once in a while get a little more information and ask you some things to give feedback. So here's Emily.
All right, so this is fact or fiction. So I'm going to ask for kind of a poll to see if you guys think this is fact or fiction. So Wenatchee County's rate of binge drinking is ranked 12th on the list of 50 drunkest counties in America. So who, and the chat people can also put it in the chat if you would like. So who thinks this is fact? Okay, so we've got mostly fact people here. What are we seeing in the chat?
The chat all says facts. So
Okay, and does anybody think it's fiction? Anyone want? Okay, we've got one fiction. So it is actually fact. So it's which you'll see the rate in a little bit, but it is 12th on the 50th drunkest counties in America, and it's also one of the highest in Iowa. So something that's kind of interesting. Again, just relating it locally. So.
Okay, thanks, Emily. And now we are going to look at prevalence in Northeast Iowa. And this information is 2021 data from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And they found that the county that's at the highest rate is Winnebago County. That should not be a surprise to us. And Delaware is second. And for those of you who don't associate so much with counties, we are in Winnebago County here at Luther College and in Decorah. And Decorah is the biggest city, if you will, in Winnebago County. In Delaware County, Manchester is the largest city, but I believe that population is smaller than Decorah. And then Howard County is really close next, and they are to our west, and their biggest town is Cresco, which is also the county seat, and Alameda County is the lowest of these four counties, but really close to Howard County. Okay, then we're going to look at those age groups, and I love this chart because it really shows how prominent those age groups are. Remember how I said that the 18 to 34-year-olds are the group that has the highest rate, and 65 plus is the smaller portion. Does that surprise anybody, any of that information? Yeah. And it is alarming, however, that high schoolers, 9th through 12th grade, are binge drinking pretty heavily. It's a concern. Anything in the chat that? Okay, cool. The next information that we're going to look at.
Actually, we do have a question.
Oh, great.
Does the binge drinking number of 5 or more drinks for men take into account their intolerances that they might have if they don't feel tipsy after 6? Is it really binge drinking?
And if what?
If they don't feel tipsy after 6 drinks, is it really binge drinking?
The definition is that 5 or more drinks. It's not, so that's the definition. The thing is everybody, we all need to be aware of what our body feels like. And if there is any doubt, if you are able to drive, give your keys to somebody else, get an Uber, get somebody to pick you up, that kind of thing. But, so the question was, is that still binge drinking? Okay. And I would say that tolerance is a big factor in there, because as you drink more, that tolerance changes, but your blood alcohol content is what determines that you are binge drinking and have drank to the excess. So that's the thing to really remember. Okay, does that make sense? Yep, all right, good question. Super. Okay, this information is from the Iowa Youth Survey, and the Iowa Youth Survey is done in the state with 6th, 8th, and 11th graders every 2 years, and it asks questions about attitudes and behaviors and what are things like in your neighborhood, asks about bullying and resources at your school or in your home, and substance use and gambling as well, and suicide, and a myriad of things. And the data that is here is from 2018, and you might say to yourself, well, you should have 2020s. But last year they didn't do it because the schools were kind of a mess last year, in our state. And so they decided not to do the survey in 2020, but they are doing it this year. So this information, or the chart here, shows that these are the binge drinking rates in our counties that we serve. And it's always good to look at what those Iowa numbers are. And what that means is that all of the counties put together, that's the rate for that particular grade. And it's a good idea to kind of say to yourself, okay, Iowa's rate was, so it looks like about 1%, maybe 1.8, something like that. And Al McKee's was almost 4%, so they are above the average when you look at those sixth graders. And anything that anybody sees here that you see very prominent, oh, look at that. Did you do that, Sarah?
No, I did not do this.
Somebody's helping us out. And really, those rates for those 11th graders are much higher. That doesn't surprise me. Does that surprise you guys? No, because you think about when you were 11th grader, you drank more than somebody that was younger. And so Delaware County definitely has the highest 11th grade use, but not, well, it looks like, but not sixth grade, because Al McKee, sixth grade is higher. Okay. And sometimes too, we had a discussion in our group about why is there more binge drinking in particular areas? And a big part of that for youth is their accessibility to alcohol. So if they can get their parent to give it to them, or their brother's friend, or something like that, in that community, there will probably be a higher rate. But there's also things like if there aren't very many things to do, that can be a concern. You also have to factor in that heredity and what the norms are in the community about traditions and celebrating and things like that. So there's lots of factors related to that. Next, we're going to look at short-term effects. And risky behaviors are certainly a big one with binge drinking, that there can be unprotected sex, sexually transmitted diseases, unintended pregnancies. You also could do things that somebody dares you to do that you normally wouldn't do. And you also might use other drugs as part of that risky behavior as well. And if you are pregnant and binge drink, you're more likely to miscarry, to have a stillbirth, and have that effect of the fetal alcohol syndrome on your infant. And then injuries are certainly more likely when you're drinking, whether that be car incidences, crashes, whether that be falls or burns or drowning. That certainly increases when there's binge drinking involved. And violence is a very big short-term health effect, with factoring into suicides and homicides and dating violence and domestic violence and many other things, even starting fights. You've seen that when a fight breaks out when somebody's been drinking too much. And then alcohol poisoning can certainly happen. And the symptoms of alcohol poisoning are confusion, vomiting, seizures could happen, and decreased breathing. So those are things to look for. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later on. Some long-term effects are certainly the heart disease type of things. Your blood pressure can change. You're more susceptible to having a heart attack and possible stroke. Cancer is a big long-term effect. Cancer of the breast, mouth, rectum, esophagus, liver, colon. And 3.5% of cancer deaths in the US are related to alcohol use. And 5 to 9% have a higher chance of getting breast cancer if you drink. So those are some alarming statistics. We also know that another long-term effect is liver disease, including cirrhosis and hepatitis. And diabetes can be a long-term effect. Memory loss, including dementia. And hearing loss can also happen, especially balance issues are a big part of that hearing process. Many social problems can occur, relationships change, whether that's with your family, a loved one, or a friend. You can have poor performance at school or in your workplace, not wanting to do things, not being with the same people that you normally were with, and having that relationship with alcohol. Anxiety and depression can certainly be a long-term effect, and alcohol dependence. So those are some pretty, if we can say, sobering things to look at. So we have Claire.
Okay, so we have another fact or fiction. So everyone online can type in the chat whether they think this is fact or fiction, and I'll poll everyone here. So this is from the CDC. So if this is the correct stat. So there are 2,200 deaths in the U.S. each year caused by alcohol poisoning. Who thinks this is fact? Who thinks this is fiction? Okay, what's the chat saying?
Mix of both.
A mix of both. Okay, let's see. It is fact. So about each year in the U.S., there are about 2,200 deaths specifically caused by alcohol poisoning.
I didn't hear, what did the chat majority say?
There wasn't a majority, it was an even mix.
Oh, really? That's really interesting. Okay. Good. Well, we want to talk about some resources here for a few minutes. The information that's on the right are their websites that can give us some information on resources, but also particularly assessment tools to determine if you have a problem or a loved one has a problem. And we are going to talk about that in just a minute. But also on the right, that is a wonderful resource, Your Life Iowa. It's a website. It is a website, but you can also call it, you can chat on it, you can text them, and they'll give you very good information. If you're just having a bad day and aren't sure you're going to get through it without a drink, you can give them a call or text them or chat with them. They can also get you connected with somebody who has struggled with alcohol use as well, or they've helped a loved one that has struggled. And so that's a really nice option to have somebody that's sort of been in your shoes. And there's a wonderful section on family and friends in the website as well, and gives you specific language to talk to with somebody. And if your way of learning isn't looking at the information, then pick up the phone and call them. And when you go to the website, the phone number's on there. So really encourage you. Oh, the other thing that I was going to say too with Your Life Iowa is if there is a resource that's close to you that can help you, they will give you that information, such as if it were Decorah, they may say, why don't you check out Northeast Iowa Behavioral Health and see, here's some of the options that they have for you. So talking about self-assessment tools, the information that's on the left here is an example of a one-question screening tool. And that one just simply says, how many times in the past year have you had, and if you're a man, 5 or more drinks in a day, and a woman, 4 or more drinks in a day. And it just gives an idea of where you're at related to your drinking. Now, the information that's on the right, folks who are here in the room, you actually have this assessment tool in your packet, And I was gonna write down what color, it's blue, I can see somebody. I was gonna write down what color it was, but I can see that. So, it has 10 questions on it, and the questions, and Emily or Sarah was gonna pop this assessment tool into the chat so that people can look that online as well. It's a 10-question assessment tool, and for each answer that you give, there are points assigned to it. And the first question gives you an example of that. How often do you have a drink containing alcohol? And you give yourself no points if never, but then it's graduated 4 points if you have 4 more drinks, 4 more times in a week. And so each question has those different points. When you're all done, you add up your total at the bottom here. And if you had 8 points or more, that indicates you are at risk for harmful alcohol use. So if you do this yourself, it gives you that idea, thus it being an assessment tool. If you think of it as your friend or your loved one, it could also give you an indication of, I think we need to talk to somebody. So, and there are various assessment tools, but these are the ones that we landed on that we liked. That's a good way to say it. Now we're going to jump into some ideas related to how do you keep safe. And first of all, a great idea is to host a sober party. Now you might not call it that. But telling your friends, I'm going to have a party and we're not going to have alcohol. And there can be lots of reasons for that. You could just say, hey, I'm trying to be healthy. Or, hey, I need to stay eligible for my sport that I'm in. Or, I'm just not doing that anymore. Let's have fun anyway. So just be sure you tell people that that's what you're doing. Post it between the hours of 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. And the reason for that, you think about that, that's when most people drink or are partying. So if you have your alternate type of party at the same time, that gives friends an opportunity to go and be safe. And you do want to offer multiple kinds of drinks, whether that's pop or water or hot cider like we had tonight, or some mocktails. And in your information here for folks that are here, you have recipes for mocktails, and those who pre-registered, we also gave you that as well. And if you've got your information, we'll make sure that you get those as well, because they're kind of fun drinks with tasty kinds of ideas, and it's a good alternative. And then, of course, every party has to have games, fun music, and an opportunity to celebrate and just enjoy friendship. Some other things that you want to keep in mind related to drinking is there are some decisions you need to make before you start drinking. And one of them is figure out a game plan of how you're going to get home. If that's you talk to your roommate, if you call your friend, you call a taxi, some way that you are going to get home. You need to know what your plan is. And 2, a designated driver is a great idea too. That's already in your group and you're already with them. Another thing to think about too is drink with a group of people that you know and you trust. And that way it's not weird. And you also are talking to your friends and kind of saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. And they can kind of help you with that accountability as well. And it feels a lot better. Another really good idea is to pace yourself so that you're not slamming down those shots in the first hour that you're there. Tell yourself, hey, I'm just going to take this easy because we're going to be here for a while, and pace yourself. Another great idea is to keep in mind that you need to be hydrated because alcohol really doesn't hydrate you in any way. So every time you have one of these standard drinks, you should be drinking 16 ounces of water to help yourself with that absorption rate of the alcohol. And then to keep in mind, again, those ideas that men and women drinking ratios, the 4 drinks in a 2-hour period and 5 for men in a 2-hour period. And then I think we said this before, to eat while you're drinking, have snacks, order that burger, don't eat on an empty stomach, I think, or don't eat on an empty stomach, that's really good, isn't it? Don't drink on an empty stomach, have something to eat before you go out. And that's all about your alcohol absorption rate. It just helps you to absorb that. Some of the information in this slide is repeated, but I think it's worth repeating. To remember to set a limit, and that can be a limit of time that you say we're only going to stay till midnight and then we're going home. That also could be a limit of how many drinks you're going to have. Just decide what that is. And again, doing this before you go out to drink is much better, because you aren't going to be making good decisions if you've had a lot to drink later on. Pacing yourself, again, very important. Also have a plan of how you're going to say no when everybody's, or lots of people are buying you a drink, or saying, why aren't you drinking, kind of thing. Just plan to say, hey, I'm being healthy, or hey, you know, I'm good. And sometimes that's all you have to say. But it's good to kind of have something up your sleeve to say. This information says talk to your provider if you're concerned about your drinking behaviors. And again, doing that before you're in the moment of something is a much better process. And they too can give you some ideas and things. And then we talked already about eating and hydrating. And then to remember what we said about the hard liquors, it's only 1.2 ounces for each drink. So you might want to switch to having a beer or a seltzer or a glass of wine instead of doing shots. And then to have that accountability partner, somebody that, you know, you talk to them ahead of time and say, no, here's my limit, this is what I'm doing, and they can be like, good job. Or can even say, hey, you're getting a little carried away. And that's where it's great to have that person that you trust. And then some folks have been identified as having a drinking problem, but they still want to drink and they're not as able to just say no. And working with their physician, they can get a drug that is called naltrexone. And it's something that they take 2 hours before they start drinking, and it blocks the kind of the buzz of drinking. And it really helps over time too to decrease that desire and that craving to have alcohol. But it's something that it would need to be prescribed by your physician and somebody to get you through that, like that provider that we talked about earlier. Okay, Mari's got another fact or fiction for us.
Oh, we have a question.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat that says, if it blocks things, how does that not lead to more drinking?
If it blocks what?
If it blocks things, how does that not lead to more drinking? Like the buzz. If it blocks the buzz.
It's blocking the buzz so that, oh, I see what you're saying. So then they're thinking, okay, I can drink more because I need that buzz type of thing. I don't know all the chemistry behind that. Do one of you want to share anything about that?
Essentially, it blocks like the positive feedback loop that you get from drinking. So when you drink, you feel good and you want to drink more. Well, this drug prevents you from feeling good from the drink and therefore stops that loop of wanting to drink more.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, so we're gonna do fact or fiction and poll people here as well as in the chat, so feel free to respond. The statement is American Indians or Alaskan Natives and Latinos have the highest rate of binge drinking among racial groups. Who thinks fact? Who thinks fiction? So it actually is fiction. The highest rate of binge drinking is actually in non-Hispanic whites.
So was the chat, where were they at?
They were saying it's fact.
Really? You guys are See, this is what's good about this, is we get to all learn new things. So that's perfect. Okay, some things that we want to look at now is what to do if someone has alcohol poisoning. And first and foremost, call 911. Provide them with information about what the person has been drinking or using, because they could be using a drug as well, and how often they've been drinking and how much they drank. Stay with them. You don't just deliver them to their room and say, you're good, I did my part, I'm a good person. You be a good person and stay there. Position them either by propping them up so that they are not having issues with vomiting it to themselves and everything, or put them on their side, and that way it will go out the other way. Yeah. And then keep them awake, if at all possible, until the health professionals come and can help you.
Kathy, we have a question in the chat, and the question is, what does alcohol poisoning look like?
And we went over that a second ago, but there can be seizures, there can be vomiting, what else?
Confusion, decreased breathing
Breathing,
rates,
right.
level of
Nausea.
consciousness. Yeah, decreased level of consciousness, decreased responsiveness.
Right, and that's why that keeping them awake is so important. Great.
Could they hear that?
Okay. And some resources related to alcohol poisoning specifically. And on this screen or this slide, this shares ones that are here locally, but everybody should call 911. So that's no issue. But depending on where you're at, you can call your local police department. You also can call your local medical center or hospital. On campus, every campus has some type of counseling services. We actually have one of the counseling professionals on the call tonight, and they are more than happy to talk with you beforehand about what's going on or help you in a situation like that. But their hours are 8 a.m. to 11:45 in the morning, and then 1 to 4:30. So Luther Security, you can certainly give them a call. Residence Life, the RAs and the hall directors have been trained on what to do if there's alcohol poisoning, so they know what to do until a health professional gets there. And then health services can also help you, not in the moment between 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. because they offer their services from 8 to 4 being closed over the lunch hour, but they can certainly help you with some of those risks that have happened and help you with some assessment tools. So those are some local things to keep in mind. So this is a point where we want to be sure that you have my contact information, whether or not you want to know more information about the topic or about being a mentor, because we really do need more mentors, specifically men are really needed. Also, Angela Cuny is here, who has helped us with all of the work that the students have done, and we've given her contact information. And please, 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 in your evaluations and the pink paper it's really bright pink, to fill out, please do that. And online, evaluation link is here, bit.ly/above the influence eval. Please say in there what you liked about what you learned tonight, and give kudos to the nursing students, because it's their hard work that made this happen. We want to leave just a few minutes for questions, or if you'd like to share any takeaways about what you learned tonight or found interesting, or have questions. Is the chat quiet? Okay, that means they're all going to the evaluation link. So that's very good. We will leave the Zoom open so you can grab that evaluation link for those of you who are online. We truly, truly, truly appreciate everybody being here tonight. Those of us who are still here, there are still cookies to eat, and there's hot apple cider for us to enjoy. And I hope that you at home are enjoying something that you've got in front of you. And one thing we just really want to encourage you to do is to live above the influence, because that's what tonight was about. So thank you.